You're standing in a fluorescent aisle or scrolling at 1:17 a.m. with the phone inches from your face, and you're doing that modern ritual where you pretend you're investing in safety while your bank account quietly hemorrhages. A pair of operator pants, a flashlight that claims it can turn night into noon, a knife with a celebrity's name stamped on it like it's a guitar pick from a concert, a bucket of 150 servings that looks like it belongs in a disaster movie. You hit checkout, you feel a little more prepared, and you tell yourself, this is what responsible adults do. Then the real world shows up. Dirty, boring, uncinematic, and it asks your gear a simple question. Do you work when things stop being convenient? And that's where the lie starts to peel. Because inflation doesn't just raise prices, it narrows your options. It squeezes redundancy out of your life. It turns, I'll replace it later into, I guess I won't. And in that environment, the survival industry doesn't just sell tools, it sells relief. It sells identity. It sells the feeling that you did something, that you're ahead of the herd, that you're smarter than the people who buy normal stuff. And if you're not careful, you'll spend your last real dollars on tactical cosmetics vibes with Velcro, while ignoring the boring, proven, brutally effective things that keep you alive. Water storage, calories, fuel, medical refills, batteries, spare parts, and skills. Bad gear is expensive twice. Once at checkout, once when it breaks. And in survival, when it breaks is never a convenient Tuesday afternoon with free returns and a coupon code. It's always the moment you needed it. So, no, this isn't an anti-prep rant. This is an anti-getting scammed rant. Not every product from these brands is trash. Some of them make good stuff. Some of them have specific items that work fine. But there are certain categories where the value collapses, where you're paying for story more than function, where you're financing someone else's marketing budget with your emergency fund. We're going to name 5 survival brands or survival adjacent categories that have mastered the art of ripping you off. Not by stealing your credit card, by selling you the wrong priorities at the worst possible time. And we're going to do it the only way that matters. Claims versus reality, failure modes, and simple tests you can repeat without a lab coat. Because if your gear can't survive boring abuse, it won't survive the exciting kind. Part 1. The tactical scam machine. Why people keep buying this stuff. Here's the part nobody wants to admit. Most survival buying decisions aren't engineering decisions, they're emotional decisions. Wearing a lab coat. You're not just buying a pack, you're buying a version of yourself, competent, calm, dangerous in a quiet way. And marketing knows this. Marketing doesn't sell you a seam, it sells you a scene. The scam machine has 4 main tricks, and once you see them, you can't unsee them. Trick number 1, mil-spec without the spec sheet. The phrase military grade is one of the greatest psychological weapons ever invented because it hijacks your brain's shortcut for trust. The military uses tough stuff, therefore this is tough stuff. Except mil-spec is not a vibe. It's a document. It's measurements, tolerances, materials, testing procedures, and acceptance criteria. If a company can't show you what spec they're not meeting a spec. They're meeting a mood. Trick number 2, the bundle illusion. You've seen it. A kit with 37 items for $69. 99, you do the math in your head, and your brain goes, wow, less than $2 per item. That is exactly what they want your brain to do. Because the truth is, those kits are often padded with filler, tiny, fragile items that exist to inflate the count, not increase the capability. A micro compass, a wire saw, a folding knife that feels like a toy, a whistle that works until it doesn't. It's survival confetti. It photographs well. It fails quietly. Trick number 3, celebrity and hero borrowing. You don't have to be famous. You just have to be adjacent to the aesthetic of competence. Veteran branding.
Operator language. Influencer guys who speak in calm, controlled tones while standing next to a truck that looks like it's never been used for work.
That's not evidence. That's casting. Trick number 4, influencer survivorship bias. The one time it worked becomes the ad. The times it didn't become user error. That's the genius of it. If the product works, it's proof. If it fails, you're the problem. That's not how engineering works. That's how cults work. Now let's put a blade to the real wound, inflation. A $40 to $80 tactical purchase is not just money. It's lost redundancy, That's batteries you didn't buy, water containers you didn't buy, medical supplies you didn't rotate, a second headlamp, a spare filter, fuel, salt. The boring stuff that doesn't look cool in a flat lay photo but quietly keeps you alive when your brain is running low on glucose and high on panic. Bad gear is expensive twice. Once at checkout, once when it breaks. And under inflation, you don't get the luxury of paying twice. So here are the rules of engagement before we start naming names. 1. Not every product from these brands is trash. 2. We're targeting the most common ripoff categories, where the markup is high and the performance delta is low or negative. 3. The goal is not to dunk. It's to redirect your money from story to standards. Because standards are boring, standards are ugly, standards don't come with a patriotic slogan. Standards just work. And that's what you need. Part 2, the 5 offenders number 1, premium price, mid durability, and the QC roulette. Let's start with a brand that practically invented the tactical lifestyle as retail therapy. Walk into any strip mall tactical store and you'll see it. The pants with a dozen pockets, the bags with molly webbing like a skin condition, the shirts that make accountants look like they're about to clear a room. The promise is simple: professional grade gear, law enforcement friendly, built for real use. Pay more because it's more. And here's the thing: sometimes it is more. Sometimes a pair of pants fits great, moves well, and lasts. Sometimes a bag survives years. People have good experiences. And I'm not here to pretend otherwise. But the ripoff pattern isn't everything is junk. The pattern is that you're paying premium while rolling dice on consistency, especially on items where construction quality is the whole point. When customers complain, the complaints aren't poetic, they're logistical. Delays, back orders, cancellations. And on the product side, seams coming apart, snaps failing, inconsistencies that shouldn't exist at a premium price point. Trustpilot.com/review/511tactical.com/US, page =4. On the community side, you see the same theme: quality control issues, defects, and a vibe that the brand has drifted toward tactical fashion instead of hard use reliability. Reddit.com/r/tactical gear/comment/1Q0 a339/511_a_nightmare_stay_away/.
Here's how the markup works. With a lot of tactical clothing, you're paying for complexity.
More pockets, more panels, more Velcro fields, more features. But complexity is not strength. Complexity is more seams, more failure points, more places for stitching to pull, more hardware to fatigue. If you want durability, you don't buy more stuff attached to fabric. You buy stitching quality, bar tacks, reinforcements at stress points, and hardware that doesn't quit under grit, sweat, and repetition. So here's the simple, repeatable test you can do, and it's brutal in the most boring way. First, the seam stress test. Load 25 pounds in a pack, sandbag, water jugs, whatever you have. Walk 500 steps. Not a cinematic ruck march, just real walking. Then inspect the stitching at strap anchors and seam junctions. You're not looking for dramatic tears. You're looking for early signs of failure: threads pulling, stitches spreading, fabric puckering at stress points. Second, hardware fatigue. Velcro is a liar. Fresh Velcro feels like a bear trap. Used Velcro feels like a handshake from a guy who doesn't mean it. Open and close it 200 cycles. Rub dust into it. Now the replacement philosophy, because I'm not going to start brand wars and turn this into a comment section blood sport. If you want tough clothing for real work, the boring answer is workwear: simpler designs, stronger stitching, lower cost. You might not get 14 pockets and a place for your tactical pen, but you'll get pants that survive crawling under trucks, carrying lumber, and washing like a normal person. If you want technical performance, lightweight, fast drying, engineered fabrics, the boring answer is outdoor technical clothing from companies that obsess over material science, not operator cosplay. And here's the rule you remember: if you're paying extra for Molly on your jeans, you're not buying durability. You're buying a costume. The worst part is, you won't notice until you're stressed, sweaty, and annoyed, and the seam gives up like it's resigning. People talk about it like it's Excalibur. Like if you buy the right blade, you inherit competence through osmosis. Celebrity survival lines are a perfect scam because they flip the priorities. Instead of starting with fundamentals, steel quality, heat treat, tang design, ergonomics, They start with features: a whistle, a ferro rod, a sharpener, serrations, a survival vibe. The knife becomes a gadget platform, not a cutting tool. And the reality is simple: a knife doesn't need a personality, it needs reliability. When you look at community commentary on the Bear Grylls line, you keep seeing the same theme. It's made for the branding, not hard use. People talk about handle cracking, pommel issues, returns, and the general vibe of these don't stand up to real hard use social mask types. com/forums/t_10_18/656/679_bear_ultimate_survival_knife_review HTML. That doesn't mean every single knife in a celebrity line is guaranteed to snap. It means the product is structured around a marketing budget and licensing, not a ruthless performance per dollar mandate. You're paying for a name stamped on steel that often performs like cheaper commodity options. So let's talk tests, because knives are easy to myth bust with repeatable abuse. Edge retention reality. Cut cardboard. People love to test knives on paper like it's a magic trick. Paper doesn't fight back. Cardboard does. Do 200 feet of cardboard, then rope. Watch what happens. Edge rolling, chipping, the feeling of wow, this got dull fast. That's not you being picky. That's steel and heat treat showing you who they really are. Betoning and lateral stress, controlled. You don't need to be stupid. You don't need to pry like you're opening a car door. Just do normal bushcraft work. Split kindling, cut notches, carve. If the handle is a weak point, it'll tell you. Sheath retention, shake it, jog with it, see if it stays put. Gear that's fine on a table becomes sketchy the moment you move through brush or climb. Now, the replacement philosophy is almost offensively simple. Buy a boring fixed blade with proven steel and a simple ferro rod. That's it. Your knife is a knife. Your fire starter is a fire starter. Your whistle is a whistle. When you combine everything into one object, you create a single point of failure with a personality disorder. Here's the rule. If the knife is selling you survival features, it's probably compensating for weak fundamentals. Now let's move from knives, where failure is annoying, to food, where failure is slow, demoralizing, and dangerous in a quiet way. Knowing number 3, serving size marketing and bucket theater. The bucket is one of the most brilliant props in the preparedness industry. A big plastic cylinder with bold numbers on it. 150 servings. 25-year shelf life. Just add water. It looks like certainty. It looks like you bought your way out of hunger. But the bucket is not a plan. It's a container. The scam lives in math and psychology. Servings are a marketing unit, not a survival unit. Your body doesn't run on servings. It runs on calories, protein, fats, micronutrients, and morale. And buckets love to sell you calories like they're doing you a favor, while quietly building most of the meals out of cheap carbs and sodium. There's a whole ecosystem of critique around this. You can find direct "this is a scam" style reviews focused on ReadyWise buckets, taste tests, and value arguments as V=LTC UZ44EQW4. And you can find longer discussions where people do what they should have done in the first place. Try small quantities before committing, then realize the practicality problems, pouch sizing, prep time, fuel use, and the reality that edible is not the same as sustainable. Reddit.com/r/preppers/comments/da0k3/my_experience_with_food_buckets_wise/ here's the failure mode nobody wants to talk about. Fuel. A bucket meal that requires boiling water and waiting 20 minutes is not just food, it's a fuel obligation. In a grid down scenario, fuel becomes time, and time becomes risk. And if you're living off sodium-heavy carb mush for a week, your body starts to feel it. Your gut feels it. Your mood feels it. And morale is not optional. Morale is metabolism with a face. So do the test the right way, a calories per dollar audit. Make a simple spreadsheet. Total calories divided by total cost. Then compare it to boring staples: rice, beans, oats, pasta, canned protein, oil. The bucket almost always loses when you measure actual energy per dollar. Then do the cook test. Prepare 3 meals exactly as instructed. No chef fixes. No extra seasoning, no adding canned chicken to rescue it. Just follow the instructions. Measure how much fuel you used. Measure how hungry you still are. Then do the sodium reality check. Read labels and ask yourself if you want this for 7 days straight. Not can you, but should you? Now the replacement list. The boring but bulletproof version looks like this. Build your own base with rice, beans, oats, and fats. Add salt, spices, and rotating canned proteins. Stack redundancy. Multiple ways to cook, multiple ways to flavor, multiple ways to store water. And if you buy freeze-dried at all, buy by meals you've actually eaten, not by servings printed on a bucket like a lottery ticket. Rule. If the food plan is sold as a single purchase, it's probably a single point of failure. Now we move into the part of prepping where people get weirdly emotional. Flashlights. Number 4, tactical flashlight hype, all-light style spec marketing. Lumens are a lie you can measure. Flashlights are a perfect playground for marketing because most people don't understand what matters. They understand brighter. They understand tactical. They understand 2000 lumens. And companies love that because lumens are easy to print on a box and hard for consumers to interpret in real use. Here's the truth. The number on the package often represents peak output for a short burst, not sustained performance. Heat management forces step down. Batteries sag, electronics protect themselves, and suddenly your 2000 lumen light is a 300 lumen light after a couple minutes, right when you're trying to see across a yard or through smoke or into a corner you don't want to be surprised by. A review of the Olite Odin lays this bare in the most direct way. It can hit 2000 lumens briefly, then steps down hard, and the review calls out the lumen weirdness and the decline curve. pewpewtactical.com/olite-odn review/. That same review also describes a practical mounting durability failure. After firing, the mounting system loosened and a mounting bar appeared bent, turning a weapon light into a handheld light, which is like buying a car that becomes a bicycle after 250 rounds. pewpowtactical.com/olite-odin review/allite. And the broader community debate around Olite versus more duty-proven brands is basically a case study in why people defend purchases emotionally even when the downsides are obvious. Reddit.com/r/tacticalgear/comments/v240eg/olite_versus_streamlight/. Now, I'm not here to litigate every Olite. I'm here to explain the ripoff pattern. Spec marketing, you're sold peak lumens and cool charging gimmicks, while the boring stuff, sustained output, switch durability, mount robustness, battery standardization, gets less attention. So run the tests you can do at home. Sustained output test. Turn it on for 10 minutes. Use a Phone Lux app at a fixed distance. Watch the curve. You don't need lab-grade accuracy. You need honesty. If it drops like a rock, you now understand what you're actually buying. Drop test. 1. 5 meters onto concrete controlled. Do it 3 times. A light that's tactical should survive gravity, because gravity is the most common enemy you'll ever face. Switch reliability test. Rapid cycling plus pocket lint and dirt. Switches fail in the real world because of grit, not because of cinematic hero moments. And then the most important metric, standardization. Does it take common batteries? Can you replace them easily? Can you charge it without proprietary everything? Because in a prolonged disruption, proprietary is just a fancy word for unserviceable. The boring replacement philosophy by proven duty lights with standardized power options and robust mounting ecosystems. Not because they're cool, because they're boring. And boring is what you want at 3 a.m. Rule. If the flashlight's main selling point is the number on the box, you're buying marketing, not visibility. Now, the last category is the one that preys on beginners the hardest, because it looks like value and feels like preparedness. The pre-made survival kit. Number 5, the cheap survival kit category. 30 items, 25 of them are filler. This is the gateway drug. Someone wants to start prepping, and they do what humans do. They look for the simplest purchase that feels like progress. A pre-made kit delivers that dopamine hit. It also delivers a pouch full of compromises. A typical kit list looks impressive. Compass, blanket, poncho, whistle, mirror, matches, light stick, like WST Featherlight Kit Review List shows. YouTube.com/watch V=X of LuoJDM0. And those items in isolation aren't inherently bad ideas. The problem is execution and scale. Tiny items are not compact. They're unusable. Micro tools fail when your hands are cold, wet, shaking, or gloved. Cheap compasses are fine until you actually need a bearing.
Wire saws are a meme for a reason.
The ripoff pattern is function dilution. You get many items, but none of them are sized for real work. The kit is designed for a photo, not a problem. So here are the tests, and they're almost insulting. Use the wire saw on a 2-inch branch, not a dead twig, a real branch. See how long it takes. See what breaks first. The wire, your patience, or your faith in humanity. Use the microcompass on a short navigation walk. Check it against a known good compass or your phone's GPS bearing. Watch how much drift, stickiness, and close enough shows up. Use the included fire starter and wind. Real wind. Not, I'm inside and I turned on a fan. Wind outside, cold fingers, damp tinder. If it can't reliably produce fire when conditions are slightly mean, it's not a survival tool. It's a novelty. Now, the replacement list is the opposite of a kit. It's a micro kit you build yourself with 6 real items: a reliable lighter, plus backup ignition, a real cutting tool, real cordage, water treatment or filtration, a headlamp with standard batteries, and a small first aid kit that's actually designed around your likely injuries. Rule: if the kit advertises how many items it has, it's trying to distract you from how weak each item is. Now you've seen the offenders, but I don't want you walking away with never buy brand X. That's not a framework, that's a grudge. I want you walking away with a way to judge everything. So we move to the part that makes this feel scientific without needing a lab. Part 3, the valueless test framework, your secret weapon. Here's the framework I want you to steal and use forever because it cuts through hype like a scalpel. Metric 1, cost to failure. How fast does it break under realistic use? Not under torture porn testing. Under normal, repeatable abuse. Metric 2, repairability. Can you fix it with basic tools? Or does it become trash the moment a proprietary component fails? Metric 3, standardization. Common batteries, common parts, common sizes. The more standardized it is, the more resilient it is. Standardization is survival's version of interoperability. It's what keeps your system alive when supply chains aren't. Metric 4, function density. Does each item do a real job, or is it filler? Function density isn't how many features, it's how many real outcomes. Metric 5, redundancy value. If you save $60 by avoiding a tactical tax, what critical backup can you buy? Redundancy is not paranoia. Redundancy is how you buy time and options. Now, if you score the categories we talked about with these metrics, a pattern emerges. Tactical fashion with inconsistent QC, low cost of failure value at premium prices, mediocre repairability, high complexity, celebrity gimmick knives. You pay licensing, not fundamentals. Repairability is low. Failure can be catastrophic. Food buckets, they can have a place, but the serving math often collapses, and the bucket can trick you into thinking you solved food. Flashlights with peak lumen marketing and proprietary ecosystems, standardization problems, performance drop-offs, and mounts that matter more than marketing admits. Tactical.com/OLightODN review/cheap kits, low function density, low durability, and high illusion. And this is where you start to understand the real enemy, not a brand, not a product. The enemy is story-driven purchasing, buying feelings in place of systems. Because the real prepper advantage isn't gear. It's a supply chain you built ahead of time using boring standards so you don't have to improvise your way out of a problem with gimmicks. Part 4, the escalation, why this matters more than wasted money. Let's zoom out for a second, because it's easy to treat this like consumer advice, like we're just talking about saving cash. But what you're really buying with preparedness is margin. Margin is the difference between a bad week and a bad year. Margin is the difference between we can handle this and we are now negotiating with reality. And inflation eats margin first. When you buy overpriced gear that performs like cheaper alternatives, you're not just wasting money, you're shrinking your safety buffer. You're trading redundancy for aesthetics. You're choosing identity over resilience. And here's the uglier truth. A lot of survival marketing is not built for the moment you actually need it. It's built for the moment you imagine you'll need it. It's built for fantasy stress, not real stress. Real stress is boring. It's exhaustion. It's dehydration. It's dirty water and calories that don't feel like enough. It's small failures stacking up until you make one big mistake. And in that environment, what saves you is not mil-spec language. It's not a bucket with a number. It's not a knife with a celebrity logo. It's standards. systems, skills, redundancy, the dull stuff. And yeah, I know, the dull stuff doesn't get clicks. It doesn't feel like power, it feels like paperwork. But that's the reality. Survival is logistics with consequences. Part V, closing, the line you don't get to unhear. So here's what I want you to do the next time you're about to buy something tactical. I want you to pause and ask one question that marketing hates. Am I buying function or am I buying a story about myself? Because if the value proposition is looks tactical instead of survives abuse, inflation will eat you alive. You will keep buying replacements. You will keep chasing the feeling of preparedness while your real preparedness, water, food, medical, fuel, redundancy, stays thin. And the worst part is you won't notice until you're tired and scared and the tool you trusted does the one thing it was never designed to do. It fails quietly. If you're broke, you can't afford tactical cosmetics. Buy standards, not stories. Because when the lights go out, the universe doesn't care what brand you believed in. It only cares what still works.